reading can be fun and deadly. Three generations of women fight back against those who could take everything from them. Sam was only 12 years old when her mother, Scarlett, an elite assassin, was forced to abandon her. Sam was raised by the firm, the ruthless crime syndicate her mother worked for. Sam has followed in her mother's footsteps and grown into a fierce hitwoman. But when a high-risk job goes wrong, Sam must choose between serving the firm and protecting the life of an innocent 8-year-old girl. Sam has only one chance to survive: reunite with her mother and her lethal associates, the librarians. These three generations of women must now stand up to the firm and their army of henchmen. Gunpowder Milkshake will definitely be compared to Kill Bill and John Wick, but that's not necessarily a bad thing if you like those kind of movies. The somewhat over-the-top movie has some real star power, with a cast of women that hold their own. There's perhaps a bit more style than substance in this movie, but that style is mesmerizing and the action is ruthless. Hey Twisted people, it's your Twisted Woman here, and today I am doing a spoiler-free review of Gunpowder Milkshake. But before we get into all of that, I want you to tell me down in the comment section, what is your fave movie dealing with assassins? First and foremost, the core cast of Gunpowder Milkshake is amazing. You have some amazing women in this film from some really iconic roles that we already know them from. And I just love watching them all interact with each other. And it's also nice to see a movie that is action orientated, that kind of deals with this fantastical area of assassins, where the main cast of women are above the age of 25, or heck, above the age of 30. You don't always get that when it comes to Hollywood mainstream movies. So this was very, very good to see, in my opinion. And not like in a way like, oh, that's nice, but like they held their own, and better than some movies I've seen where they do those femme fatales and they're all of looking over the age of, like, maybe they can't even like get a drink at a bar. Now, the plot is pretty simple, and there's nothing wrong with a simple plot. As you know, I compared it earlier to John Wick, which is one of my fave franchises. I mean, all of that stemmed from the killing of a puppy that we loved. And, you know, that was kind of the main thing, although there was a lot of backstory and all of that. And I think Gunpowder Milkshake kind of goes with that sort of thing, with a little bit of the Kill Bill sort of revenge plot going on there. But even with that, yes, the plot is simple, but it also somehow still felt hollow at times. Like, I can accept a very simple plot, but there was something missing in terms of maybe the meat of the backstory of some of these characters in that regard, to kind of make it so, yes, it's a simple plot, but it's complex characters in a simple plot, which is kind of what you need for a simple plot to work a little bit. The fight scenes in this movie are really good. They're really great. They're really nice to look at. I guess you can say pretty, for lack of a better word, although they're brutal and violent. And, you know, they're violent, but they're not as violent as they could be. Because, you know, we've seen action movies in the very recent past that are like, whoa. I think Atomic Blonde comes to mind, if you've ever watched that film, where Charlize Theron was getting her butt kicked, but she was also kicking other people's butt, and you heard bones cracking and all types of other things. When it comes to Gunpowder Milkshake, you do definitely see people getting stabbed. You see all of these things kind of happening, but they don't do it so realistically to the point where it's like you're wincing as you watch it. You don't really wince as much as you would if it's like super in your face brutal, but it's definitely there. It's definitely violent. And it pains me to say this, but I think this movie had a little too much slow motion going on. And I say that as someone who's usually a fan of like Zack Snyder's slow motion. And if you know his slow motion, then you know that I got a pretty good tolerance level for the slow motion when it comes to most movies. But with this film, with the slow motion, the director, I feel like at some points it was like, this is really cool to look at. This slow motion, look, that's a great shot. And then other times with the slow motion, I was like, yeah, this doesn't seem this seems like it slows down the pace of the movie unnecessarily, as more so you're sacrificing the pacing of the movie for that really cool shot. And I don't really think that should be something that has to go against each other. I think if you have a really cool shot, it can be a cool shot without sacrificing the pace of the film. And I think there were a few times too many in this movie where I feel like the pacing of the film was sacrificed for slow motion shots. And because of that, I thought the movie was too long. It's about an hour and 54 minutes or so close to 2 hours. And I honestly think this film could have been an hour and a half. Speaking of style, I didn't really know what time period this all was taking place in. Now, there were cell phones being used, and so it had to have been later than the 90s, of course, because of the cell phones. But then you had characters who were very much dressing like it was the 1950s. And then you had some characters that very much came off like 1980s kind of henchmen. And then you had a little bit of a film noir kind of 1940s style going on. So I'm like, what's going on here? What's going on here? Where are we exactly? And I think that goes back to the idea of style, right? I think when it came to the look of this film, they took a lot of elements from other things that look really cool and they put it in there. But I think because of that, certain things, it wasn't necessarily a mismatch. It was just more so you couldn't really settle into a look for too long before it seemed and felt like it kind of switched on you. My final twisted grade for Gunpowder Milkshake is a B. It's a fun, imperfect thrill ride.